Hello and welcome to Waylander's Wandering, where I'm continuing my project for 2023 of getting all my Star Wars Legion items painted up, some for my own 501st Legion army, some for you guys because I love you so much. This is going to be for my own personal army, and if you've looked at the 501st Legion army list, you will notice that you're allowed to take 2 of the named clones as characters within your force. That is clone Arc Trooper 5s and Arc Trooper Echo. This guy is going to be 5s because, well, honestly, this is the guy that all the other Star Wars Legion players use as 5s, so I will as well. So I've decided that because he's an interesting miniature and he has some interesting design choices on him, I'm going to paint him on camera for you guys. Starting off, we will do my usual first step on top of the matte white primer that I tend to use. So I'll stick him on a painting stick, on a painting handle, and give him an all-over coat, making sure we get into everywhere with some Citadel Apothecary white. We will try to get all the shady areas, but not too much pooling on the upper surfaces, because that makes life a little bit easier later. So I will get this done and leave him to dry, which will probably take a good little while. I will bring you guys back in for some of the design choices. With the contrast paint now dry, it's time to start highlighting the miniature. And to do this, the first thing we're going to do is a dry brush of Citadel Layer Ultraviolet Grey, and then a final highlighting type dry brush on top with Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White. We're going to do this using our big brushes, Army Painter Masterclass dry brushes, which will be the moderate size, the medium sized one, and the smaller one, the Minimist. So first thing we're going to do is get a dollop of Ultraviolet Grey on the old textured palette there. Give that brush a quick clean, and using, what we're going to do first is wet the brush, and then using the tissue, as much of that water off as we can, so that when we come to the back of your hand, it leaves your hand cool, not wet. So it's just kind of damp or moist, if you prefer that word. So then come in with the edge of your brush into the paint. Make sure you get some and work it into the bristles. Working it into the bristles on the texture palette, and the texture will help you not only see how it's dry brushing like so, but because of the texture it will help work the paint off. Once we're happy, you can then come in using a top down motion and dry brush all over the miniature. Kind of highlighted on all the white areas. We will move on once he's dried to his undersuit. Right, Mr. Vives, time to paint your undersuit, which will be in here, mainly in the joints of the armour. The underside of this skirts thing, these bandolier bits holding his pistol holsters, the pistol holders themselves obviously, and inside the eye lenses and things on his helmet. So to do this, we will be using Citadel Contrast Black Legion, because I find not only is this brilliant paint for coverage, but because it's contrast paint and a little bit thinner than most normal paints, it runs really well, and for little areas that it can be somewhat fiddly, like in here, it will get the paint in without putting the paint where you don't want it. So all of these belts and undersuit, I'm going to get a coat of black lesion. Oh, not forgetting this collar thing that ARC troopers wear. And I will bring you guys back in once all of this has got a nice even coat on it. With everything black now painted black and any overpaints touched up, hopefully I've got all of them, it's time to move on to the greys. The greys will be the tops of these pads across the shoulder, the rim around the helmet there, the inside and outside of that skirt piece, this backpack, some detail around the shins and across the chest, and I think that is it, hopefully. For these top bits on here, I will be using Eshin Grey from Citadel. For the other greys, I will use Mechanica Standard Grey, also from Citadel. I may use both on this backpack to give it a little bit of depth. I'll decide later. But it's time to break out the wet palette. My wet palette I get from the Army Painter. In fact, all of the brushes, materials and everything else I use in this video are available from my favourite game store, Mighty Lancer Games, down in Bridlington. And if you want to get the materials that I use, or even the models that I use, please use the QR code on screen now, or the link in the description below. So starting with the Eshin Grey, we will quickly go over these shoulder bits. I realise it doesn't show very well, but once it's on and dried and it's had a highlight of the Mechanica Standard Grey, it will. We're moving with these bits all the way around. Nice quick job. Move on to the Mechanicus Standard Grey, which is a slightly paler shade. A little bit on the wet palette. Then we will start on the ring around the helmet there, this edge piece. So I will crack on with these grey bits. I will bring you back once I've completed all of this. You can have a look. At this article. With all of that grey blocked in and had a very quick dry brush highlight over the top, the miniature is actually starting to come together really well. The next stage will be to use some reference material, for which I've downloaded an image from DeviantArt by FRaJoey1, which I will show on screen now, and we will have a look at this and see where the blue and the little red bits are going to be, which I will attempt to replicate as closely as possible using Citadel Base Cantor Blue and Citadel Base Mephiston Red. So let us crack on with this paint. So we'll start off with getting a blob of Cantor blue onto the wet palette. Get a decent sized lump on, because I feel we're going to be doing a fair old bit of this. Now the first thing we're going to do is use this to block in the knee pads. Try not to get any onto the grey areas or the black undersuit areas that we've done previously. So I will block in these knees and the arrow areas indicated on the reference art, this Cantor blue, and I will bring you in when they are all done. Clone Trooper CT-5555 5s, painted by me in a manner that you can copy very easily. As you can see there, I finished him off with a little bit of sort of stipple dabbing with some black paint on a sponge to chip up the armour a little bit. May have gone a little bit overboard with that. But there we go. All nicely finished. A nice character model to add to my clone army. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. I hope you've learned some things from the techniques that I used. And as you can see, there's a selection of the paints I used in the background there. Thank you for staying to the end. Thank you for watching me. Thank you for listening to me bang on about rubbish. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I love your faces, and goodbye.